Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. And there it is, a starfighter. Which one, Napalm, you might ask, because there are 7 in the game as of this update. And yes, you're right, there are 5 nations that overall received 7 of them. And let's go through them one by one. But a bit of a disclaimer beforehand. First of all, this is not a review. This is a mere first impressions. It's a little bit of a scene/kill compilation to get my toe into the water, because I think that the meta has changed overall again quite dramatically. So first of all, first impressions. Then I have no idea how the meta is, and then let's talk about the various different nations. So the US got 2 starfighters, the F-104A, 9.7 battle rating, same battle rating as the F-104C, again 9.7. Then the Germans got the F-104G at battle rating 10.0. The Japanese got the F-104J at 10.0. The Italians got the F-104S at 10.0. Then the Chinese got also 2, which is the F-104A at 9.7, just like the Americans. And then they got the same as the Germans, the F-104G, although I think the missile loadout varies. So the battle ratings go from 9.7 to 10.0. The majority are 10.0. Overall, 7 of them distributed amongst 5 nations. Then the other nations also got a bit of love. France got the Mirage 3C. The Soviets get the Su-7B, but that's more like a ground striker. And then Britain got both the Scimitar and the Phantom FG Mark I. The only nation kind of a bit left out are the Swedes, but I think they got the Air Tech Tree last patch. So kind of completely understandable. So you can see that this is a full high tier content orgy at top tier, and all those planes cost you a lot of time to get, a lot of time to purchase, get into the crew, and then also get in most cases the at least mandatory expert qualification. So this is not cheap content. The question is, which version should you go for? I had a brief look over all of them, and I gotta say I probably go with this one. This one is the Chinese F-104G at battle rating 10.0. First of all, I'm not a jet expert. I never held a deep love for jets. I always thought that the compression is not really all that great. The capabilities of the planes are wide. Since we have air-to-air missiles, it's always a question, how good are the planes in stock configurations without the missiles? And I gotta say, this thing is an absolute whale. It is one of the least maneuverable jets that you can imagine. It's quick though. Technically, it's capable of Mach 2, but not on the deck. I think on the deck you reach 1,500 kilometers per hour IAS before you redline, and while you have undeniably great acceleration, this thing also consumes fuel at a mind-blowing rate. Point number one. So you at least have to take the 20 minutes. For some players, I recommend the 30 minutes. And if you don't use it, well, tough. And the stock weapon system is a 20mm Gatling. It has quite a lot of ammunition, I guess, compared to some of the Soviet things, with 750 rounds for the 20mm M61A1. But to aim with this thing is terrible, because this thing rolls all over the place. This thing has one of the whaliest flight models, I think, that you can imagine. So to put it into a nutshell, the first 10 games, there were 2 scenarios. Either I got killed very quickly by somebody that was behind me. I couldn't do anything against the missiles because I didn't have the maneuverability to do so and to roll around, and also I didn't have any flares to work with. I mean, I always got the lock-on warning. Another quick disclaimer here, I obviously got this plane fully upgraded by Gaijin. So there is this. However, the 20mm isn't bad, but to get it on target, that's terrible. While you're fast, you're not really that outstandingly fast, especially in comparison to a MiG-21 or to a Phantom. They very often can catch you. So the thing is, I think if I would be an absolute pro, I would be able to tell you something more in detail. But for a new guy that just wants to get on the hype train and experience this, this might be a tough nut to crack. But what about the upgraded version? Well, there are various different weapon loadouts for all of them, and there might be a bit more diverse here and there, but it's now the F-104G, the Chinese one that I'm talking about. So you have a wide weapon loadout with bombs and missiles and even rockets, but the one that I'm using is the AIM-9J. You have 4 of them, and here are the technical details. The guidance is AR. The aspect is rear aspect. The weapon lock range in rear aspect is 5.5 kilometers, which is quite nice. The launch range is also 18 kilometers, and the maximum speed is 2.5 Mach. The maximum overload is also 20 Gs, which is quite nice, and the TNT equivalent warhead is 7.62 kilograms. They're fairly reliable, but even with those statistics, I found it very often quite hard to get the guns on target, up until the point that I adapted to a certain tactic that I was thinking about from a video, or that I was remembering from a video that had nothing to do with jet combat in its entirety. It was a video that I watched several years ago by a World of Warships content creator called Arun, and he was talking about a tactic that a friend of his told him, and it was basically about how to play cruisers in that matter back in the days. And that friend suggested that your cruiser, you should wait for 5 minutes before you even go in game. So the first 5 minutes you should spend AFK to prevent getting blapped by battleships with one of the first opening salvos, to orientate yourself and just see how the battle is going, so where you can be used in the most efficient way on the map. And I think if you break it down to this chat, I think one of the most successful battles where I also got the first kills was when I waited for 1 minute till everybody took off. And that put me in a very, very funny situation. So it happened that I didn't see combat at all, because the game was decided so quickly, because the maps are so tiny. Some of the maps that I fought on, that were even tiny by prop standards. So you can imagine that it's quite oof-ish if you put Mach 2 chats on those said maps. Again, I couldn't hear correct to get the guns on target, despite I knew that he was going in a straight line. Again, lacking both experience and the feedback feeling from this thing. But again, if you then reach the furball, you have 4 of those great missiles, and you have the speed to get in and position yourself. But it is you depending on your team not dying that fast, and then nobody having a particular interest in the first place in you. So you have to really act like a vulture. This is the higher battle rating version of the Voiture, if you ask me. You are really fast, but you can't do anything against reliably if somebody aims with a missile at you. You will most likely die. But at least you don't rip your wings. Yes, there are speed and altitude frames where you at least turn around, but there are also things where it doesn't really happen. One thing about those missiles is, did you see this? The missile was actually going directly into the sun, and yet it didn't lose the lock on the plane. Although, yeah, he was going rather slowly. He has 2 engines, so maybe the AR signal was higher, but nonetheless the missiles are juicy. But to get to them, to be able to deal with the stop run, that might be the most awful experience that I can imagine. If I wouldn't have gotten this plane fully upgraded from Gaijin, I still would be in the grind, point number 1. Point number 2, I probably wouldn't have the nerves to go for this, and I probably go for something else, anything, and you wouldn't be able to see this video. But on the other hand, this is what I could do as more or less a high tier chat noob with this plane fully upgraded. And you didn't see the battles where I was one of the first one to die, where I couldn't do anything against missiles. Maybe there are some experts around this. Oh, you have to put yourself into this position if you see the missile coming. And somebody will also suggest, oh, you just don't have to get fired a missile upon you. But very often you can't control that happening, right? And yeah, very often then it's too late. But this is an absolutely terrible thing to fly when you have to maneuver. Look at how long it takes. Compare this to the snappiness of a MiG-21 or some other planes. To correct your aim, it rolls around and then you have your rudder lock up. That is bad. But when you get those missiles off, yeah, it's nice, but this could be done with so many more jets as well. So I'm not quite sure what to think about it. But in terms of jets, this might be one of the most balanced jets releases forever, because over half the nations got them, and while there are some significant differences, well, it's just I don't know what to think about this. I always got up tiered, so a lot of people say, oh, it's completely overpowered in a down tier. Yeah, I never got this experience. Maybe I have to try out some 9.7s, and even then I think I have to try out the missiles and the guns, and I don't think that it will completely change. Nonetheless, that is my first impressions. It's a bit inconclusive, whatever. I'm not quite sure what to think about this thing. It's not right overpowered, it's not the new meta dictator, but it also doesn't really help the compression. I can see how people come to the conclusion that this is overpowered when it faces a down tier. So anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder. Only gun kill incoming. Yeah, yikes.